Guys, the Fed finally did it. On September 17th, they cut the interest rates by 25 basis points. Now, I know some of you are thinking, rates down a quarter point, who cares? But this one is a big deal. Well, it is the very first cut since Trump came back into the office, and a lot of people are calling it the start of the next bull run. But not everyone is convinced. Some economists are saying this cut makes zero sense. Inflation is still high, debt is out of control, and the timing feels suspicious. So today, we're going to unpack this from 3 angles. What it means, why they did it, and what comes next, especially for crypto. First, let's start with the basics. In case you don't know, cutting rates means cheaper money. So loans cost less, financing gets easier, and liquidity flows into risk assets like stocks, bonds, and of course, crypto. For example, 2020 during the pandemic, the Fed slammed the rates to zero, opened the money printer full blast, and markets went nuts. The S&P 500 crashed to 2.2 in March, but by the end of the year, it was back at 3.7K. Tesla literally went up 7x in 12 months, and Bitcoin from 5K to 60K, a straight 10x. So yeah, rate cuts are basically gasoline for bull markets. That's the reason why everyone is so hyped right now. But here's the thing. This isn't your normal rate cut. Normally, rate policy is a simple seesaw. High inflation and high unemployment cut rates. But right now, unemployment looks fine, but inflation is actually ticking back up. Year over year, inflation went from 2.7% in July to 2.9% in August. Core inflation is stuck at 3.1%. That is not the kind of backdrop where you normally cut. So why the heck cut now? Well, look at US debt. The national debt just smashed through $36 trillion. That's 130% of the GDP. And for comparison, 2010, 13 trillion, 2020, 23 trillion, and 2025, $37 trillion. That is almost a 3x in 15 years. And servicing that debt at 4% interest costs the government almost $1 trillion a year, which is actually way more than the defense budget. So, cutting 25 basis points, that saves about $92.5 billion a year in interest. It is basically a band-aid for Uncle Sam's debt headache. But saving money isn't enough. The US still needs people to actually buy all that debt. And here's the problem. Foreign investors are buying less. Back in 2014, they held almost half of US Treasuries. And by the end of 2024, it is down to about 30%. And think about it. Would you buy Treasuries right now? Like, yields are lower after the cut, inflation is still hot, so your real return looks terrible. So, who's left? Okay, the Fed could step in and just print money to buy Treasuries. That is called quantitative easing, QE. But QE usually happens during crisis. It's inflationary and it makes markets overly dependent on Fed bailouts, which means Washington needed a new playbook. And here's where it gets interesting. They're quietly using crypto. Okay, now this part sounds like conspiracy theory, but it's real. A new mechanism has been forming, and let's call it the crypto C fund. It has 2 parts. First, stablecoins. USDT and USDC are worth about $150 billion and $61 billion. Over 80% of their reserves are short-term US Treasuries. That means every time you send Tether to a buddy in Argentina or swap USDC on-chain, somewhere in the background, US debt is being bought. Stablecoins are like a giant group buy for treasuries. Second, we got RWA, real-world assets on-chain, like stocks, bonds, anything you can tokenize. It creates a loop where dollars leave the US as stablecoins, then flow back into treasuries via tokenized assets. It is basically a financial boomerang. Dollar goes out, dollar comes back, and treasuries stay funded. Sounds genius, right? But here is the problem. The scale isn't there yet. So right now, stablecoins total about $250 billion, but the US need to issue $3.5 trillion a year in new debt. To cover that, stablecoins will need to grow 13 to 14x bigger. And here are some projections. Treasury Secretary Bison said 2 trillion stablecoins in 3 years. Standard Chartered says 2 trillion by 2028. And JP Morgan way more conservative, about $500 billion. But even the middle class, which is like $1 to $2 trillion, will be insane growth. And if that liquidity comes, Bitcoin at 120K could look like a bargain. And this isn't just theory. the US is actively building rails for this system, with Trump signed the National Innovation Act for Stablecoin in July 2025, and Circle IPO'd the first big crypto IPO since Coinbase. Also, the Clarity Act and SEC's new rules are setting up RWA support. And Nasdaq, they're literally preparing to tokenize stocks, with live trading possibly starting January. And guys, that's not accidental. That's the US government saying, yes, crypto is part of the new financial plumbing now. So what does all this mean? Like, if the crypto siphon works. Okay, first, the Fed gets to keep rates low without constant QE. Second, stablecoins and RWA funnel global money into treasuries. And third, the US slides into a long-term low-rate era, like Japan or Europe. And as for crypto, pure rocket fuel. Stablecoins expand liquidity pumps, and Bitcoin and Ethereum explode upward. And right now, $250 billion stablecoins means Bitcoin at 120K. And if stablecoins grow 10x, can you imagine that? So, don't let anyone tell you this rate cut is just a boring policy tweak. This is about resigning the system so America can handle insane debt, and crypto is right in the middle of it. Low rates, more debt, bigger stablecoins, and probably the craziest bull run we have ever seen before. So guys, buckle up. Alright, that's it for today's video. Please leave a like, subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comment section. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!